Go take a shit or no?
Chris Collins is muted.
I ran.
Chris is muted. There he is. There he is.
I just got shit right here.
I look like I'm the right fool.
And it is no time to be muted, folks. Buffalo Bills, your AFC East 2020 champions. And we have a roundtable here that honestly would scare even Captain Jack Sparrow's crew. Going from the top to bottom, we got top left, Meerkat, Brother Bill, Judge Mathis, Ty B, Chris Collins, Ranting Ron, Joe Cons, L Buff, Greg Tomset, and the Monster. Folks, someone jump at me. How are we doing tonight?
Let's go.
Woo! Doing great. Hey.
Hey, kudos. I know this is going to sound really self-serving. First off, kudos to Picasso as our sponsor for sponsoring this get-together. And kudos to everyone in this chat. Everyone in this chat throughout this season has brought something unique to the table, whether it was Meerkat in the Dart, whether it was Brother Bill in the Unstoppable row of content. Speaking of Unstoppable, whether it was Judge Mathis and the Bills guys over at Buffalo Fanatics, whether it's Ty B doing Degenerate Danger Zones, Crossing Swords, and Bullet Points every week. Chris Collins, are you kidding me? Did anybody dominate the quarantine like him? You got Ranting Ron with the hottest new show on the block. You got Joe Cons Jr. Did anybody call Tyler Bass like Joe Cons Jr. called Tyler Bass? And then you got L Buff. I'm going to get back to L Buff in a second because I like to save the best for last. You got GREG-TOMP-SE-T-T with the amazing analysis over at Cover One. And I am fired up every week, folks. Pre-game, Monster gets me ready to go. He's like the ultimate smelling salts. And of course, L Buff, who introduced me this week to Bills-gasms. And I think it goes without saying, but there's been a lot of Bills-gasms this season.
Whole game full of them for sure on Sunday, and we have just gone crazy all season for sure.
Bills fans going crazy. Well, hey, folks, before we get into it, right now, what is everybody thinking? Let's have a combo. Cheers up. Cheers to the AFC Division 2020 Bills. What's everyone feeling? We are just about 4 days, 16 and a half hours, 15 and a half hours away from kickoff here.
I'm feeling really confident myself. I mean, I usually go into games thinking, as you get closer, you start feeling a little bit more nervous. But seeing that the last 6 games that the Colts defense is 31st against the pass, we'll cover the spread times 3.
We got fans chiming in all over. We got Robert Snyder saying, love you, Ron. We got Kaylee Mowry saying, L, love you, bish. What else is everybody thinking about this coming weekend?
To quote Stephon Diggs' tweet from 10 minutes ago, I am locked in. We are ready to go. I've never been so confident for something in my life. And
breaking news.
I'm not going to regret it, I'm sure.
I actually don't love how comfortable I feel. Like I don't like that I feel as confident as I do. I feel uncomfortable with how comfortable I am.
I will actually be that person to say that I don't think that I have been super uncomfortable for the last month. Like I've been ready to go every game. I've been totally prepared. And as people are like, oh, you got to watch out for this team and that team. I don't care. We're the Buffalo fucking Bills.
Damn right.
Am I the only one who sat here for 4 Super Bowl losses, or were any of you alive?
I was an infant.
I was a
Most of
teenager.
us were alive and living, Ron, but they're 13-3. They're playing with confidence. They've scored 47 points a week. I mean, in that light, the 7-point spread, Greg, is pretty low in that regard. And you're a man who knows a thing or two about spreads. But what are you on the ranking going into the playoffs?
Tally site, yes.
I am number 1 out of 780 in the country right now.
Oh. So what do you think? Do you think it's a suspicious spread, or is it just, playoffs? Games tend to be a little bit closer.
No, it's the right spread. I mean, Indy plays slow. They can keep the game close. They have the recipe of what you would need to upset the Bills. I don't think it'll matter. I think eventually their secondary won't be able to keep up with the receivers, but that's the right number. I guessed on the show post-game when we found out we were watching live, when we saw the Texans finally stumble and give the Titans back that game, that I guessed it was going to be 6.5 and 50.5, and it ended up at like 6.5 or 7 and 52. That's about right. That's where a home favorite that's the better team should be. It's not Tampa versus the Bears, or somebody playing, or the Washington football team that should be 10.5, but 6.5, 7 makes sense. And I don't know about 3 times it is where Ron is, but I do think the Bills will cover.
You know what makes me go crazy with all this is the one eternal question that freaks me the fuck out. What if we actually do it? What if we go all the way and take the fucking trophy?
Monster.
I was talking about this
earlier.
Like you've been there before. We have never been anywhere.
I'm taking off of work for a week. I don't know what I'm going to do.
I'm quitting my job. I'm putting
somebody through a table. That's all I know.
I'll go through the table.
A house. It don't matter. But what if we actually pull it off and we actually do it? I remember the 4 Super Bowls. And I think about the Bills fans who are no longer with us, who've never got to see it, the generations. What if we actually run the table and get that fucking trophy?
I'll quarantine.
Yeah, I mean, it would be the ultimate thing.
Yeah,
obviously, right. you would always, I don't know if you guys have ever asked yourself before, but you're always like, if I didn't watch the Bills and they won every week, like, could I do that? Like, do I, like, love the Bills enough to do that? And it really is a dilemma because you want to enjoy it. You want to be a part of the experience. I know not being at the stadium, being able to jump up and down, high five, like, friends and avoid security guards at the stadium is definitely something I miss. But just talking about getting into the analysis of it. Speaking of analysis, something they do very well over at Buffalo Fanatics. The Bills guys, Judge, give me your thoughts as we head into this Colts matchup.
Well, I mean, you got 2 of maybe the top 4 hottest players in football right now in Josh Allen versus Jonathan Taylor. The only 2 football players that come to mind off the top of my head are Aaron Rodgers and J.K. Dobbins, as the other 2 have just been an absolute heater the last month or so of the season. So you really have, 2 stars colliding, which I know Greg disagrees, but I was a little upset getting put in that Saturday at 1:00 window. Like, I'll take it. I will take it. But I felt a little bit of disrespect there because I do think that these 2 teams are both, ridiculously exciting football teams, and they've both been playing some really high caliber football in the month of December. But at the end of the day, the Buffalo Bills backups were throttling the Miami Dolphins when we've already clinched the AFC East. Ron said it. The Indianapolis Colts are 31st against the pass, and Indianapolis barely put Jacksonville away. It took them a good long while to put the team with the number 1 overall pick away when their season was on the line. They almost let them back in it. So I'm feeling pretty confident that the Buffalo Bills will win by, 10, 14 points in this game. And it's, yeah, Greg was right. I'm totally uncomfortable being this comfortable.
Speaking of Bills by a certain amount of points, brother _Bill, get him in the mix here. Brother Bill, what's got you waking up on game day this Saturday? You're filling up that Labatt Blue Keurig. What's got you most excited heading into this Colts matchup?
Like you guys are saying, like the passing defense is so bad, and Josh Allen is on just an absolute heater, and I'm excited to see what he does. I think he's coming in with like a huge chip on his shoulder from what happened last playoffs, and it's been apparent, and I think he's even said it, how much it's like eating away at him, and he's just a motivated dude, and I'm just excited to watch him go to work. And seeing John Brown back last week was really nice, and I can't wait to see him take off the top on the defense a couple times this week. Yeah, I'm excited, man. I think like we're always cautiously optimistic, but I'm just really totally optimistic right now. And
I think that article on the Players Tribune today from Deion Dawkins moved everybody from cautiously optimistic to semi-aggressively optimistic.
Oh, you were going to say moved us from 6 to 12?
Tears.
I was at least 11. I'm sorry for anybody watching up. But with that said, speaking of being on the same page like the Bills have been down the stretch run, when we were talking about before this, what aspect of the Colts does worry you the most? Because part of being a Bills fan is being worried. I don't care how confident you are. Part of a Bills fan, being a Bills fan at this point, in this juncture of the whole experience, is being, nervous. And speaking of being nervous, so one group that was on the same page, like we said, Joe Cons and Meerkat, our guys over at Trademark Sports doing great work on trademarksports.com. The 2-headed rushing attack of these Indianapolis Colts. Obviously, Phillip Rivers is calling the shots. He'll likely be doing some whining. But Meerkat and Cons, both of you thinking that the rushing attack could be potentially threatening to these Bills.
Yeah, the Colts kind of have a bit of a 2-headed monster with Jonathan Taylor and Nyheim Hines. Like Judge brought up, Jonathan Taylor is on a heater heading into this postseason. He's proven he was worth the pick. And Nyheim Hines is really proving himself as a receiver. He leads that team in receptions out of the backfield. So that's something that you got to watch out for. You know, Matt Milano, AJ Klein have to be on top of their game. We have to make sure we're setting those edges, not letting things break out outside, because our rush defense has been improved the past, month or so greatly. They're healthy, and it's really promising with the matchup with Jonathan Taylor to me. But Nyheim Hines scares me a bit there.
Yeah. I'll have to agree with Meerkat on that. Only for the sole purpose of, I was a little worried when Star Lotulelei opted out of the season. Most people don't realize this, but that's a guy that plays defensive tackle the way defensive tackle is supposed to be played. He's a big, giant guy, plugs holes, plugs gaps. I think the defense has turned the corner, but the biggest thing for me is that we just don't have that big, solid guy. Correct me if I'm wrong, but we could use a big, fat guy in the middle there to stuff the run, and it just concerns me a little bit. I'm not saying they can't get it done. I'm not saying Edmonds, Milano can't get big, can't play long, can't play rangy. It's just not having Star Lotulelei in the middle to plug those gaps. I think Bills fans are going to see just how much Star Lotulelei does. I'm not saying that Vernon Butler, Quentin Jefferson, these guys can't do it. Harrison Phillips can't do it. But I think we're going to see that it would be helpful if we had him. So that's why I'm a little nervous. Also, Frank Reich is a genius. That's the other thing kind of sitting in the back of my mind. So, but with that being said, I'm fired up, guys. I'm just enjoying the moment. I'm not going to worry too much down the road. I'm going to bask in the moment of this playoff game, because that Houston Texans loss last year just left a bad taste in my mouth, and I don't want to feel that way again. I don't think this team's going to do it to us this weekend.
All right, and speaking of worrying a little bit, I'm going to throw it into neutral before I throttle it like the Bills throttled the Dolphins this past weekend. Meerkat, any reason to worry about R2 Dart 2?
There's a lot of reason. Me and Tybee had a little chat on DDZ today, if you listened, about what's going on. We think there's a curse. We don't know if we need some holy water. We need a witch doctor just to burn some sage, whatever. But R2 Dart 2 is carrying a bit of a ominous, cursey type presence around it to win the college basketball over-under in its first pick, something the last start never did, and then lose every pick since. I hate it, but we have to stick with it. I abandoned the old dart. I can't give up on another one this quick.
I don't know what that is. What is that?
That is the gambling dart that we host on Trainwreck Sports. People think they're good at sports betting, but a dart might be better. Unless you're Greg Thompson. I got to throw that out there. I mean, he does have the numbers.
Percentage-wise, they're close.
Very close.
Percentage-wise, they're close.
And speaking of throwing a dart, you could have basically just thrown a dart this year and had a better chance of hitting the bullseye than hitting MVP odds on Josh Allen. He was about 40-1, 45-1 to start the year. But basically, at the end of the year, he's going to be a runner-up, odds-on runner-up to Aaron Rodgers. So that's pretty crazy. The Bills quarterback being the second runner-up to the MVP, regardless whether he wins it or not. But very interesting, when we were talking about this in the pre-show with a number of you, I asked whether you had more confidence in Josh Allen or the defense going into this playoff run. Now, keep in mind, McDermott defenses in the playoffs have really dominated for the most part. They've really kind of dominated, like I said. So very interesting to see the confidence in Josh Allen. But does anyone want to say right now that they have more confidence in the defense than Josh Allen?
No.
Not
right, none of us are more.
Okay, I mean, everybody said it. I was pretty shocked.
Did the defense spin the ball against the Chargers?
No.
The defense entered the matrix.
Absolutely right. The 31st ranked pass, offense or pass defense. Absolutely, Josh should come out and take advantage of them, be able to manipulate matchups. So speaking of being able to manipulate matchups, we're looking at the injury report and we're looking for Beasley. Did not practice today, so obviously that's not a great sign, as they say in the business. But the other thing, Diggs shows up on there with an oblique. Anyone want to chime in? Any reason to worry about this?
Yeah, I mean, maybe that Christian Wilkins hit. I know a couple of people talked about him stretching and grabbing at it in pregame a little bit. So, I mean, if he had the game, he had, 7 for 76 in the first half. If that's what he does on a sore oblique, I'm all right.
Rest him all week.
Isaiah McKenzie will pick up the slack, even though he was on the injury report too.
Right, Diggs is a dog. There's no doubt about it. Unless his ribs are sticking out of his fucking jersey, he's going to be on that field getting that ball. Trust me, he's not going anywhere with an oblique injury.
I'm going to bet you that that's actually more of a play so that they're psyching out everybody else, being like, oh, maybe it's not going to be quite so concerning for us. It'll all be okay. But really, they're just resting him for a day or two. He's going to be back on Saturday, and he's going to absolutely fucking dominate.
Trying to lull Rocky Sin into a sense of complacency.
I like it.
Former Bills draft favorite Rocky Sin.
Yeah. Everybody wanted that name.
See no
Yeah,
way
real great performance against UB there from Rock.
Oh no! Now we're getting
Anthony
the UB
Johnson,
talk.
baby.
There we go.
Litman Johnson. The Bills should get Litman Johnson on the practice squad for this.
Yeah, everyone else is on the practice squad.
Yes, every other receiver is in the league.
I mean, we gotta. No. We need room for Chad Kelly.
Yeah, we do need. Well, if Chad wants to talk Indy, we can talk Indy. That's what
Chad's gonna sign so he can lead the Super Bowl celebration.
No, he's gonna lead the charge.
He's allowed to sign it if he rectifies himself and reopens Encore after what he did there.
Chad Kelly rides in on a Buffalo into the Super Bowl with an AK strapped on his back.
Hey,
I miss Encore. I'm sorry.
The best tweet I saw all day was a couple years ago. Kelvin Benjamin was our #1 receiver, and today Kenny Stills is on our practice squad. That's how far we've come. So, and Brandon Beane was named General Manager of the Year, right?
By Pro Football Talk.
Pro Football Talk.
And Good Morning Football. So.
Yeah.
And Trainwreck Sports. Don't forget that.
And Buffalo Fanatics.
Yeah, okay.
And Randy
don't forget Fanatics. Don't forget Cover One. Don't forget.
I'm holding my ballot. My ballot's still not submitted yet.
Oh, are you? Yeah, it would be. It would be, Thompson.
Speaking of ballots, apparently Tasker failed once again to get in, and I think that's a Hall of Shame right now because that's embarrassing that Tasker's still not in, and I think he's running out of time. Right? Eventually,
I think this was his last year.
Yeah, I really thought there was some momentum this year. It's a shame.
Yeah, you don't.
Well, can't you get in as like an icon? I think him holding the stogie, saying it's gonna be chilly, might be enough.
If the Bills win the Super Bowl, I think that automatically gets him.
If only that was
if they win the
released
Super
before.
Bowl, that's instant internet Hall of Fame, which is kind of, I mean, no offense to the NFL Hall of Fame, kind of more important. Like Leroy Jenkins, like just being up there with that, like
the leprechaun.
Real quick though, I want to point something out that I argue about special teams more than anything else. When Robert Foster wasn't active a few years ago, everyone's like, we don't need him. I'm like, you need a gunner. You need a great gunner. Let me tell you why Steve